Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flip Genius podcast. Today I have a wonderful guest and buddy of mine. We're both in a mastermind together, Coaching Inc. Shout out to Tom Curl and Coaching Inc. But met this guy Jesse and wanted to have him on, hear about what he's doing in the real estate space, and see how he might be able to help some of our listeners. So welcome, Jesse.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you today, hear a little bit more about what you have going on and how you're helping other folks in the real estate world. So why don't we start off with kind of your background? What were you doing before you got into real estate?
Awesome. Yeah. So I got into real estate around 2013, and what happened? I was a mailman, actually. I was
Okay.
a rural mail carrier,
Yeah.
and I was on a big Dave Ramsey kick, trying to pay off a bunch of debt and things like that.
Yeah.
And so all I would do is on my route, I would listen to audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a pretty good, actually not so much a college education in real estate. First, I got a college education in marketing just from all these audiobooks that I was listening to.
Yeah.
And then I stumbled across Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And about that time, I'd finally paid off all the debts that I had. And I started saving some money and started looking into real estate. And I bought my first rental cash in 2013.
Okay.
And from there, I learned all of the negotiation tactics, buying for myself. I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to buy as cheap as possible. And I was still in that Dave Ramsey mindset for the first 5 years of my real estate career. So everything had to be cash. So I had to get everything super low price, which was definitely a blessing.
So
Yeah.
you said you bought your first house with cash. So is this you just saved and saved and saved, pinch pennies, did the old Dave Ramsey model of don't spend a dime on anything and stockpile cash, and then went and bought your first house?
Pretty much, but it's not as impressive as it sounds. I'm here in Jackson, Mississippi. So the first house that I bought was actually about 45 minutes north of Jackson. It cost me less than $10,000. So
Wow.
I went in and fixed it all up myself. I think I had less than 15 grand in it by the time it was all said and done. And
So you only spent 5, 6 grand, 7 grand fixing it up?
right, because
Wow.
I did all the work myself.
Okay.
So that was also a big blessing because it got me familiar with what it actually takes to get a house rent ready. And
Yeah.
first tenant was a Section 8 tenant, so I learned that process
Mm.
and got working education that way.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Section 8 program? I've had some Section 8 properties as well, and you hear a lot of horror stories, but interested to hear your perspective on it.
For me, it's been great. Right now, I'd say about a quarter of the portfolio that we manage, my houses are included in that portfolio, are on Section 8. And there are problems with the program for sure,
Hmm.
but you run into problems with any type of tenant. And I've
Sure.
had probably more people trash my house that were not on the Section 8 program than
Yeah.
I have with the Section 8 program. So.
Yeah, I've been a fan of it. I heard a lot of horror stories about it, and we actually had some properties that we put on the Section 8 program, and there's a property management company here in Atlanta that specializes in Section 8 properties. They since changed the name to the Atlanta Housing Authority, but to kind of get away from the stigma of Section 8, but it's the same program. But I loved having those tenants. I mean, we got paid every month on the first of the month from the government. I would say 99%, if not 100% of the payment came from the government. So we weren't relying on the tenant to give us anything. The other thing, I don't know if they do this in Mississippi where you are, but the other thing they do in Atlanta is obviously we can select which Section 8 tenant we want to move into the house. And then they are required to have an inspection from the Atlanta Housing Authority every 6 months. And if they're not taking care of the house, if they're not paying on time or destroying the house really because the government's paying for it. But if there's any issues, they get kicked out of the house. They get removed from the AHA program, Atlanta Housing Authority Section 8 program, and they can never get back on.
Oh, yeah.
So the tenants don't want to get kicked off of Section 8, right? So they actually take care of the property, like you said, much better than regular tenants.
Yeah, I love it. I think that it's well worth politics aside. I think it's well
Yeah.
worth getting into learning how to get set up with that program for sure.
Yeah, and I
And then
think
also another
go
benefit
ahead.
is
Yeah.
you know, when you're working with a regular cash tenant and it comes time to renew, a lot of them are not happy when you hit them with a, you know, an increase in their rent. But
Hmm.
with Section 8, you don't have that worry because the government's paying 90% of the rent. So it's
Right.
easy to get that increase.
Yeah, that is a good benefit. I think too in the years ahead, especially this year 26 and then into 27, I think affordable housing is going to be a huge thing because a lot of political things obviously that are happening, but with the interest rates, with inflation, with we saw yesterday where they're trying to stop all these huge funds from buying single family homes. I think it's just going to cause housing to be more and more expensive. Thus, people can't afford it, and they're going to have some type of affordable housing. So, I think Section 8 is going to be a great program going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue
Yeah.
providing for sure.
So you buy your first house, pay cash, do the work on it. That's great. Great way to learn, hands-on learning. We did the same thing with our first house that we flipped. And then save money up again and go do it again.
Yeah.
How'd you go from one house to where you are now? Kind of
I
what are the
bas-
steps?
yeah, that's great. I basically just continued on that Dave Ramsey lifestyle. So I was continuing to save. I was taking everything that I made from the rent and putting that into savings. And
Mm,
took me about a year, and then I bought another one, and
okay.
same thing. And I continued to do that for the next few years.
Okay.
Then I had some life altering events happen, and I ended up I actually moved to Florida for a little while. I took a W-2 job,
Okay.
other than the post office. I was working for a national construction company,
Hmm.
and you know, making really good money. And but it was one of those things where I would leave to go to work at like 6 in the morning, and sometimes I wouldn't get home until after midnight, you know. So I
Wow.
wasn't seeing my. It was funny, like one of my sons, my oldest son, he would wait for me. So his room was right next to the bedroom, or
Hmm.
sorry, right next to the front door, and he would stay awake waiting for me to come home. And it was like,
Really?
as soon as I came home, he'd run to the door. He'd be like, "Hey, can I hang out with you for a little while?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
dog tired, man. But I was like, okay. So he would go grab himself some candy. He would go grab me a beer. He would crack my beer for me, and we'd watch cartoons for an hour or two.
Oh, wow. That's great.
But yeah, but it was not a sustainable lifestyle at all.
Yeah.
And so finally I was like, I've got to change. I've got to get out of this. And I needed to change the way I was thinking about real estate. So
Mm.
I moved back to Mississippi, and I was like, I'm just going to make it work in real estate somehow, whatever I've got to do. And so I started selling the properties that I had as turnkey rentals,
Okay.
and that's how that business started.
Okay.
And
So when you moved to Florida, you kept your rentals that you had in Mississippi.
I did.
Do you know about how many you had at that time? How many you had built up
Not
to?
very many. I think I was up to like
Okay.
4 or 5, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So it wasn't enough to provide solely for your income, for your needs, for your income needs, but they were appreciating in value. You had tenants, you were cash flowing.
right.
You paid cash for them, so you didn't have a mortgage on them, right?
Exactly. So
Okay.
really it just helped me build up a base of investors that wanted to buy more.
Mm.
And since I knew how to fix up houses and I knew how to get houses really cheap, it was just a way it was my base to start selling properties and kind of build my company out that way.
So you came back from Florida to Mississippi, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to sell a couple of these. I'm going to start buying them more. I'm going to go full time into turnkey houses and wholesaling and flipping, whatever." You just decided at that point, I'm all in on the real estate deal.
Exactly. Or I'm going to go
Okay.
broke trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So you mentioned how you found properties. That's one of the things that, when we're coaching and teaching people about real estate, one of the biggest problems that they have, and one of the first questions they have is, how do I find property? So how are you finding your properties in Mississippi? Are you doing buying off the MLS? Are you doing outbound marketing? How do you find properties?
Yeah, our two biggest. Well, I've got three ways that I find property. You know, in addition to just like Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
don't buy on the MLS. I don't like dealing with MLS at all. It's just,
Yeah.
and it's not necessary for me. Obviously, being involved in like local real estate investment clubs helps a lot. I have people send me deals through that.
Okay.
I also, anytime I run into a new wholesaler,
Hmm.
I try to mentor them So if I can teach them how to negotiate the right way, then they're helped. And then also I'm their first buyer. So it works really well. And then we do a lot of direct mail.
Okay.
We stick with hand addressed, Dan Kennedy style direct mail. It works really well for us.
Okay.
And
Great.
yeah, that's the main three.
Main three. So you go to events like RIAs, Real Estate Investment Association meetings in town, meet people, give them your business card, let them know you're a buyer looking for rental properties. And then you said, I love the idea of mentoring other wholesalers because you're offering value to them. You're providing value to them before you're asking for them to do anything to you. But the return off that is that, hey, when they get a house under contract, they're going to send it to you first because you've been the one helping and coaching them.
Exactly. And if they also, I have the opportunity to jump in and negotiate the deal for them.
Yeah.
A lot of I mean, that's the biggest problem you have with new wholesalers is they want to lock it up for 90% of the
right.
supposed ARV. It's really 110% of the ARV, but
yeah.
So
they're just so excited to get something under contract. They don't care what the price is, and not knowing that they're going to have to, drop it, bail on the contract a week later because they can't sell it for more than ARV.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And then your third way, which similarly, our best return of all of our marketing channels has always been direct mail. So it kind of comes and goes. Some months are much better than other months, but overall, for the last 10 years, direct mail has been our number one channel for getting deals.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it seems like it's a universal truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anywhere that it doesn't work. I don't know anywhere that the hand address stuff doesn't work. When I did a little bit in like Palm Beach, Florida area, and I would spend, I could spend $30,000 in a month on postcards. That didn't work very well. But
really?
Hand address stuff worked. And I think it works great in some markets. But it hasn't. It definitely. I lost a lot of money. In that one market for sure.
So you're doing letters, I guess, like a letter that's in an envelope and then it's hand written, hand addressed.
Yeah. So we will actually print out the letter on the inside, but the outside, we'll just pay, like just somebody, single mom, a college student, something like that. We'll pay them to address all of the letters. And we've tested different types of stamps. We've tested different ways of folding the envelope, not folding the envelope, folding the letter when it goes in the envelope, and just different things. So
So are you doing that in-house? It sounds like you're doing it yourself. You're not using like a mail house to print and mail all that.
No, we're doing it all in-house in the sense that we'll hire someone where I can actually, I'm actually the one that still goes and drops off like 5,000 letters at a time to in the
Are you serious?
Box. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
So I was thinking when you were talking about doing them in-house, you're mailing 10 pieces a day or 20 pieces a day, but you just said you're dropping thousands of pieces of mail at a time.
Yeah.
So it's still high volume. You're just doing it in-house instead of having a print company do it all.
Exactly.
Wow. That's cool. So is your data that you're buying, I guess you're buying data from somewhere to get the properties, and you're targeting some type of high equity or tax delinquent or something like that. And then that's the people you're targeting to mail to?
For the most part, actually, I'd say really for us, we can just go to absentee owners, and we don't really have to focus. Now, the Jackson market is a lot different than other markets. So I think you have to really stack your lists in certain, like I'm sure you probably really have to stack them in Atlanta. But here it's a little easier. There's a lot of broke people that are losing their houses, and so you can just stick with absentee owners out here. You just have to know the market.
Okay. So you mentioned list stacking, and of course, a lot of our listeners know what that is, but some of them might not. So kind of explain what stacking a list means.
So like for instance, let's just say, you have different people that are motivated to sell their property for different reasons. You have landlords that are tired of, they're not good landlords and they don't know how to do it, and they're tired of people trashing their properties, or they just don't have the funds to repair their property. So that's a list, tired landlords. You have people that are behind on their property taxes and they're actually going to lose their house to tax foreclosure. You've got the list that I mentioned where it's the absentee owners. And so if you don't have a ton of money and you want to get the most motivated list out of all of them, then you can stack these lists on top of each other, and you're only going to mail people letters if they are on all of these lists or several of these lists, something like that.
Yeah.
Or, you can just go really wide and say, I want all of them, but I don't want to send, 10 letters if someone's a tired landlord and they're behind on their property taxes and they're an absentee owner. I don't want to send 3 letters to this person. I just want to stack all these lists together and sort them and remove the duplicates. And
yeah. Yep. That's a great explanation. So just like you said, Jesse, you've got some people who they just haven't paid their taxes in a month because they're behind. And then you have other people who own a house, but they live out of state, and they haven't paid their taxes, and, they may have a fine for not cutting the grass. Well, when you look at you buy all those different lists, you stack them on top of each other, and you find some of those have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of those motivating factors all stacked up on top of each other. That's the person you want to target most. You want to get to them the quickest. They're the hot lead or the highest one on the list to get to, because they're not just behind on their taxes. They got 5 or 6 or more motivating factors that would cause them to want to sell quickly and at a discount.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that list stacking. So do you have a software program or something that you use for list stacking, or do you guys manually do it?
You know what? I'm so burnt out on looking for new softwares to do different things. And so one day I just had ChatGPT. I installed Python, and I told ChatGPT I've got like 12 different spreadsheets. I want to write a little script that will stack my list based on parcel numbers. And ChatGPT built me a program in like 10 minutes, and it works.
Wow.
I
love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you haven't needed any new software to do that.
Yeah, no. What do you use, or do you do that?
No, we're not doing that right now. We have done a lot of list stacking in the past, but Atlanta, I think, is around 4 million properties, and so over the year, I mean, we've been direct mailing for 20 plus years now, and so I would venture to say we've covered just about everybody in the market multiple times. But we did in the past. We have done list stacking, especially when we're doing like more niche type stuff. Now we're kind of the wide, we mail everybody.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we're not stacking as much. I mean, we still buy data, of course, and we still target those that have multiple motivating factors. But for the most part, we're sending mail out to, everybody that meets our criteria, that meets our buy box. And the ones that have multiple motivating factors, obviously they're graded. So when we buy the data that we buy, we're able to request a certain score. So we don't want anything that has less than 2 motivating factors on it. And the things that have 10 or more motivating factors, they're at the top of the list. So they get hit multiple times in a month or in a given period, whereas those that only have 2 or 3 motivating factors only get, they get 1 piece of mail. So that's how we split ours up based on the data.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we've done postcards a lot. I have played with letters. I've never done hand addressed letters. So I like that option. And I know there are some companies out there that do that as well. Do you guys use like different types of envelopes as well? I've seen where people use like pink envelopes or make it look like a birthday party invitation envelope. Yeah. What do you guys do?
I try to make it like they're getting a letter from somebody that is a long lost friend and they have no idea who it is. So I avoid that.
Okay.
I don't want there to be any thought in their mind that I'm trying to sell them something. I don't put my company name on the return address.
Okay.
It's going to be my name or somebody that I'm JVing with or something like that. And then a PO box for the return address. So it's going to look like the kind of thing that they've got to open it. That's the main goal. Just get them to open it, and then that first sentence needs to be just enough to get them to read the second sentence, and so on. And
yeah, it's great. I love it. It's good marketing techniques there. So you send out the mail. People call you if they're interested in selling. Do you guys negotiate over the phone, or do y'all do in-person appointments?
I just want them to give me a price over the phone. I don't really do a lot of negotiation over the phone unless it's just crazy. But I like to either go inspect the property or have somebody inspect the property for us.
Okay.
And then we can kind of walk through everything that it needs. Because most of most property owners, they think their property is worth way, way more than it actually is. So I need that. A lot of times, not always, but many times, I'm going to use that as my negotiation to reframe in their mind the true value of their property. So,
Okay. Yeah. So you're not allowing so you talk to them on the phone, they say, I want $200,000 for the house and it's probably worth 60. You're not letting that deter you from continuing the conversation or even going out to see the house. You're just kind of trying to find out what their ballpark that they have in their mind is.
If they say they want $200,000 for a $60,000 house, I won't go out there. If they say they want 55 or 60 for that $60,000 house, I will, because I know I have to get it for half that.
Yeah.
But I can do that. I think a lot of times people are, or maybe they'll say, if they're a little higher than what the after repair value is, I'll still go out. But if they're just way outside the box, then they're just crazy. And I'm not trying to, I can't turn water to wine or do any other miracles like that. So,
No.
yeah.
So, so we've talked a little bit before we got on the recording here about some of your exit strategies, but kind of talk through. So we've talked about you do your marketing, you go out and see the house, you negotiate, you get a property under contract. What's your exit strategy? What are you doing to sell the property or to keep the property? What's your strategy?
Yeah, well, if we back up a little bit, I would say the first thing is when I actually structure the deal, I try to structure it with as many exits as possible. So,
Okay.
If obviously if you just get if you're a wholesaler and you get a property under contract, you have maybe 30 days, or if you're one of those wholesalers, maybe 60 days to get everything sold to another investor. So to me, if that's all you can do, well, that's all you can do, but that's the worst way to do it. So what I try to do is I try to, as often as possible, set up a way for the owner to get what they need, which is cash fast, and me what I need, which is the ability to control the property without putting out my own cash. So I do I put things under under contract and try to buy it with zero down and a 1 year or 6 month balloon where they get everything. And then that allows me, now I can either, flip that to somebody else as if I were a wholesaler, or I can fix it up and do a cash out refi with a local bank, or I can fix it up and sell it to one of my turnkey rental buyers, or just flip it on the MLS, at that point. So,
okay. So that brings up a lot of questions. You covered in a 2 sentences, you covered a lot of different things there. So very interesting. So on the front end, when you're negotiating, you're trying to get them to sell it to you you'll give them some money up front. Is that right? Like a deposit, or no deposit whatsoever?
Usually not. Usually what I say is I kind of give them an idea of what I plan to do. I let them know either I'm going to sell this to, and then homeowners aren't going to know my name, but they might know another big real estate name out here. So I usually have a little bit of authority when I'm talking to these folks, and they know that I'm the real deal, which definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
But I let them know how they're going to get their money quickly. And, they could put it on the market and they could sign a contract with somebody else, and that other person could take them through 30, 45 days where they have inspections and appraisals. And at the very end, something happens and it all falls through. Or they could sell it to me right now, zero down, but I'm going to give you monthly interest only payments. So you will get something in the meantime. And I'm going to fix up the property. So worst case scenario, in 6 months, when that balloon hits, you get back your property and it's fixed up. Best case scenario is I go ahead and get this thing fixed up. I start the cash out refi process. I get all of my money back in 60 days. And when I do that cash out refi, I have to make sure that you're paid. Or I sell it to one of my turnkey investors and they buy it in 3 weeks instead of 60 days. And you got your money like that.
Yeah. All right. So that helps me understand. So you're telling them no money down, but I'm going to give you $500 a month for the next 6 months. And then in 6 months, I'm going to pay you a balloon note of whatever, 80 grand to pay off the house. And during that 6 months, I'm going to spend my own money and my time to remodel the house, get it in better shape. And then I'm going to the plan is to refinance and pay you off within that period, maybe sooner, or sell it to an investor buddy of mine who's going to pay it off in full. But either way, the only risk to you is giving me the time to do it, because if I remodel the house and I don't pay the balloon note in 6 months, you get it back and I've completely remodeled your house for you.
Exactly.
That's a pretty good, it's a pretty good pitch for a seller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It works incredibly well. I've been having a lot of fun with it over the past. I didn't really start doing it heavily until last year, but
yeah, it's great. I love and we've switched our business model too, prior to 2020 and really 2022, but prior to 2020 is like, we're going in with an all cash offer. That's it. And this is the only option. We were always sitting across the table from people, right? Negotiating, like the seller and me, and we're against each other, and I'm trying to beat them down on their price. And I think that's kind of the general feeling about most wholesalers out there, is that they're coming in and they're just trying to lowball you. And sellers will say all the time, I don't want you to lowball me. I don't want you to lowball me. So we've switched our business model over the years to where now, we give them multiple options of how we can help them sell their house. And it's not exactly what you're doing, but it's the same concept, in that you're trying to be a benefit to the seller. You're trying to help them solve their problems that they have, and at the same time be financially rewarding to you. So you're giving them options, not just here's a lowball offer, take it or leave it.
Exactly. Choose between door 1, 2, or 3, and then.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. So we do very similar. Same thing you said too. When we're negotiating up front, we'll tell the seller, hey, look, we have a couple of different options how we can help you sell your house. One of those options is I'm going to buy it and keep it as a rental for myself. Or I'm going to buy it and flip it or whatever. And I can give you a cash price. I can close in 7 to 10 days. And if depending on your specific situation, I can tell you how we can best help you. So that's option 1. Then option 2 is I have a list of a bunch of other investors here in town that I work with, that I'm friends with. Sometimes they're willing to pay more than I am. I can send it out to them and see what they're willing to pay, and maybe get you a little more than what I can pay as a cash offer. Option 2. Option 3, we can do a novation, which basically means we're going to send it out to our buyers list, but we're also going to try to find a retail buyer, is what we say, which potentially is putting it on the MLS to find a retail buyer. And then we also have agents on our staff, so we can list it at retail. If you've got a great house, you're not in a hurry, you want the most money you can get, we can list it for you. So we go in there and say, and we can tell them up front, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do yet. It's not our acquisition person's job to determine what our exit strategy is going to be. That's my job. So our acquisition person can't tell the seller, here's exactly what we're going to do, but they give them all those options and explain, here are some of the ways that we might handle this property, so they don't, get into a difficult conversation. But I love the idea of being a partner with the seller. We're a consultant here to try to help you get the most money you can for your house based on your specific situation.
Of those, what would you say your favorite way of exiting would be? Would it be just the quick cash? Would it be the novation?
Option 2.
Wholesaling. Yeah,
wholesaling. And through 2022, like I mentioned, we got to where we were selling to, I think, 11 hedge funds. And so, they were paying close to retail price. So it was like, through July of 2022, anything we got under contract, we could sell anything.
Wow.
So it was like, we'd have 10, 11 houses a month that we're selling. And we would cherry pick some of those, we'd keep some as rentals, and we would flip a few here and there. But, we found that, our average wholesale price in 2021 was $42,000, our average profit on our wholesale deals. So like we can put a property under contract and sell it in 15 days to a hedge fund and make $42,000 on average on every deal. Yeah. It was like, it was crazy.
There you go.
Awesome. And, novation, we're upfront with the novation. We tell people what we're going to do. Obviously, we want to be honest and operate with integrity in everything that we do. Mm-hmm. So we tell the seller up front, if we're going down option 3, this is what that looks like. I need more time. I'm going to have to bring multiple people in to see the house, because we're going to try to find a retail buyer, which means, they're going to want to come see it. They're going to want to do an inspection. They're going to have an appraisal contingency likely. So it's, more like a retail buyer, but I need you to understand, if you want that high price, this is the way we're going to have to structure it. And then obviously, with listing stuff on the open market on the MLS is kind of a pain. My wife is a real estate agent. And we're in the process of opening our own brokerage. So I'm not a huge fan of real estate agents. I can say that since my wife is one, just because of their traditional operating mindset. But, when you list something on the open market on the MLS, it takes time for people to come see it. They're going to do an inspection. They're going to ask for a price reduction. They're going to have an appraisal contingency a lot of times. So it just takes more time. It's a little more headache. So I prefer just either buying it cash or option two being my favorite of just get it under contract, sell it to somebody else, and move on to the next one.
I love it.
Yeah. So you're doing something a little different though. And you mentioned this, and I want to go into this a little bit. You mentioned the word turnkey. And again, we have people who listen to our podcast who have been investors for 20 plus years, and we have people who've never done a deal. So it's kind of a wide gamut of who's listening. So I want you to kind of explain, what does turnkey mean?
Yeah. And I do think that different people have different definitions of turnkey. So
Yeah.
some people, when they think turnkey, they think this house is basically, I'm selling a house that's brand new for all intents and purposes with a brand new roof, and gutted everything and put in new electrical and new plumbing. And when I say turnkey, that's not what I mean, because I am trying to give people the best value that they can get. And so what we mean when we say turnkey is we're going to sell a property that is functional, that already has a tenant or will have a tenant, because if it's empty, we'll place a tenant for them.
Okay.
Our goal is to sell the property at between 75 and 80% of the value. We only work with cash buyers, and our goal is to be able to sell that property to them so that they can immediately go out, cash out, refi, get all their money back, and they can continue buying. So we want to help people build a portfolio of 10, 15, 20 houses, or just however many they want within their first year off of that one initial investment. And so we kind of put that above having a brand new roof on everyone and brand new plumbing and so on and so forth. So a turnkey for me is just something that is able to cash flow right away, that doesn't have, it's clean, safe, functional, and we can place a tenant, or it already has a tenant.
And are you doing that only in your market, or are you doing that just in the Jackson, Mississippi area, or all over the country?
Right now we're just doing it in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, I love that. So I always encourage people to operate in their local market, at least initially. I mean, once you scale and grow and you've become an expert in your own market, fine if you want to add an additional market. But I'm not a huge fan of virtual like wholesaling where people are doing, and I know people are ultra successful at it. So depends on whatever people's interest level is. But I always encourage people to start local, learn what they're doing, figure out all the marketing.
Exactly. I mean, every market is so different. I mean, you can do well in 3 or 4 markets, and then you go out to, Vegas or Los Angeles or some area like that, and all of a sudden it's just totally different type of seller, totally different type of buyer.
Yeah.
And you can make a lot of money going virtual if you don't know.
You can. Yeah, absolutely. And I know people, I have friends, and you do too, who've done that, where they started in one market and they became successful and were making money. They scaled. They hired people, they trained them, they added 2 or 3 or 4 other markets. And what they realized that it was a lot more work and a lot more training and a lot less money. And they ended up making less money doing that with a lot more headache, shutting down those other markets, going back to the one market, scaling back, and having a much more profitable business.
Yeah. So sometimes it's better if you have enough of everything you need in your local market. For me, that's what I did, because I did virtual for a while, like I said, in other markets, and we made money, but it wasn't nearly as fun, and it took a lot of work, and it was a lot of stress, and it was a lot of marketing dollars. And I didn't feel like I was helping people as much as I can. There's so many ways to help people in this business. I really feel like every single person walks away a winner, whether it's the person selling the house or my buyer or me or the bankers or whoever.
Yeah. So that's great. I love that model. So interestingly, I first learned how to scale a real estate business working for a buddy of mine who was a turnkey investor. So I know a little bit about it. That's where I was actually flipping houses on my own and had some rentals on my own, but kind of small scale. And then a buddy of mine brought me into work with his company. And that's where I kind of had a vision for, you can do 100, 150, 200 houses a year. And that's kind of where I first learned how to do it at much larger scale. and he was doing all turnkey. It's how he built his business. So basically, you're going in, you're finding the house, you're buying the house, you're doing little work to it. We call it make it rent ready, right? So you're not making it retail ready, which would be selling it at top dollar on the MLS. You're making it rent ready. So some updating, cleaning, painting, maybe replacing floors, minor updates to make it rent ready, make it livable, make it comfortable, something you might be willing to live in. I think we talk to some people who are like slumlords, right? Like I don't care how crappy the house is. I just want to make money on it.
Right.
And I never advocate for that. I want it to be, and it's the same thing with maintenance. I feel like with maintenance on rental properties, it's like, if they have a problem, I'm going to fix the problem as soon as possible because that's what I would want in my own house. I'm not going to ask my tenant to go a week without hot water because I don't want to fix the water heater. No, I'm going to go fix the water heater. Exactly. So making the property livable, functioning, rent ready, and then you're putting a tenant in that property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then either selling it as a turnkey. So now it's turnkey. It's fully functional. It's got a tenant in place. It's cash flowing some amount. I'm going to sell it to this other investor, or you're holding it and keeping it in your own portfolio as a cash flowing property.
Exactly. And
okay.
Focus is kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead. You were going to ask a question.
No, go ahead. I'll follow up.
In addition to all of those things where we're trying to make it rent ready, not slumlord style, we want it clean, safe, functional, and then we want it to appraise. So it's kind of going for that sweet spot where at the end of the day, it's going to appraise for close to retail, but we didn't have to do the same. It might pass for an appraiser, but it's not going to sell retail probably to, that first couple that's buying on the MLS. But so it's a sweet spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's great. So you obviously running the numbers and knowing market rent rates is key to success in that. But do you have, like in Atlanta, we used to have a 1% rule. So all in price versus monthly rent had to be 1% or more of what your all in price is. Do you have like a back of the napkin type math that you run, or how do you know that not only is this going to be a cash flow property for you, but if you're selling it to another investor, it's going to cash flow X amount?
Yeah. So we're almost to the 2% rule. So
okay.
I sell property for, if the rent is $1,000 a month, I'm going to sell it anywhere from 50 to 70 times that. So you can easily buy. I mean, and if it's more on that 70 times the rent side, the reason will be because it's just going to appraise so much higher, and so you're getting more equity, and you're just getting a little bit higher caliber neighborhood. But yeah, 2% rule, or just slightly below that, we can usually hit out here.
So if I'm getting a rent that's $1,000, you're going to sell me the house for 60, 70 grand.
Yep.
All in, turnkey.
All in, ready to go.
Wow. Okay. Well, put me down for 20 houses this year then in Jackson, Mississippi.
I'll put them on my list.
Yeah, we're not even into the 1% rule in Atlanta anymore. We used to kind of run at that 1% number, but we can't even achieve that anymore because prices have gone up so much.
Yeah, it's very few markets, and one of the great things about Jackson, in addition to just being more of a high cash flow market, is you don't have to worry about snow sitting on your roof for 4 months out of the year. We don't have as many basements, so you don't have all those expenses that go along with basements. So it's
yeah. And then you do the property management as well.
I do. Only for people that buy from me, because it's it's like a loss leader. We don't really design it to make money. We design it to make sure that our investors make money. If they make money, they'll keep buying, and maybe one day I'll find another property manager that I feel safe handing these investors over to, and I feel like they'll get taken care of. But right now, you probably know as well as me, you can be ruined by a bad property manager. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We used to manage our own properties for a while. And then as we grew and got more and more, we hired a property manager, especially when we were doing the Section 8 properties, just because it was easier. They knew what they were doing. They had thousands of doors that they were managing. And so we moved to that model. But yeah, I love the idea of, you guys managing the properties that you sell. because, like you said, it's in your best interest to take care of them well and to take care of your investors well, so that they'll want to come back and buy more properties from you.
Exactly. Yep. It
Yeah,
just, I have a little bit more of a thumb on the pulse, and yeah, I can take care of them. So
yeah, that's great. I've heard of other cities that have a higher rent rate, like we've talked about, the 1% rule, 2% rule, but unfortunately, we have not been able to achieve that. So I do think one of the benefits of that, though, in the Atlanta market, and I'm going to make a statement that I'm going to turn into a question for you. In the Atlanta market, our appreciation is usually higher than it is in most other markets. So obviously not all of them, but we're seeing, a minimum of 7% appreciation per year, closer to 10 or 12 on most properties in the area that I live in, north of Atlanta. We're seeing beyond 10% appreciation per year. And I always encourage people, do not ever buy for appreciation alone. Buy for cash flow, have a long-term vision, plan on keeping the house 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It will go up in that amount of time. But if you buy only for appreciation and you're losing $100, $200 a month because you didn't buy it for cash flow, and then the market goes down a year from now or 2 years from now, well, guess what? You're upside down and you're losing more money and you can't get out of the property. So buy for cash flow, but appreciation will happen if you have a long-term vision. So now the question, are you seeing that same kind of appreciation on your properties in Jackson, Mississippi?
not the appreciation that you're talking about. They do they do appreciate. And a lot of what I'm looking at, I'm not looking at the spreadsheets and the numbers, since I, for the most part, sell based off of a multiplier of rent. They're appreciating to my buyers just based off the fact that the rent goes up every year, and it goes up significantly. So I think just off of like not any kind of data, just me pulling out of my mind right now, I'd say probably about 5% on the properties that we've handled. And I'll regularly buy back a property from somebody that I sold it to for the exact same amount, 2 years later. And I'm not going to do that unless I can make a profit and then turn around and sell it at a higher rate. So,
I guess the other thing too, is that you're already selling it to them at, you said, 80% or 75% of the appraised of ARV after repair value, but then you have an appraisal done as well. So, or the buyer does. So they know when they're buying the property, they're already walking in with 20% equity to start with. So a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, they're going to have more than 20% equity. So they're already walking into it as a good deal.
100%. Yeah. Just, but on the appreciation side, that's not really you do get that benefit here still, but it's not, we don't push it.
Yeah. It's the cash flow. It's a cash flow model.
That's it.
Yeah. I love it. I love the turnkey model. Like I said, my buddy Ken Corsini, when I first started having a vision, I was already doing real estate, but first kind of had a vision for doing it at scale was with him. And when I joined his team, we were doing about 125 turnkey properties a year, and then in the Atlanta market, and then switched to mostly flipping. And then we flipped 100 houses a year for a while, and then scaled that back over the years. But I love the turnkey model. I think the wholesaling and flipping, even new construction, I consider transactional businesses. Meaning you buy the house, you remodel it, you sell it, you make good money. You got to go find another house. And I love, I did a podcast yesterday with someone who's a big buy and hold investor. And I love that model mostly because it's building long-term wealth. So building a portfolio, buying rental houses over time, getting 5, 10, 20, 50 rental houses over time is building long-term wealth. Once you buy it and you put the tenant in place and you manage it, it continues to pay you month after month for as long as you own it. So I love that model.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're just doing transactional and you're not doing anything to put anything in the net worth bucket, then by the time you're 50 or 60, you're going to be kicking yourself. So,
yeah, 100%. Well, man, this has been great. I appreciate it so much for being on. One last thing before we jump off. If people want to get in touch with you, I know that you help other people learn how to do exactly what you're doing. You teach other people how to do turnkey. How do people find you? How do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out and learn more about how you can help them?
Yeah. So 2 ways. You can take a look at my YouTube channel. It's not very big right now, but you can get out there. Or you can find me there. It's YouTube /@ and then dominatethedeal.com, or not .com,
Okay.
dominate at
Dominate the deal.
or you can shoot me an email, Jesse at dominatethedeal.com, and I'll be
Okay.
more than happy to help any way I can. As a matter of fact, the letter that I use, is it okay to offer something? If anybody wants the letter that I use with the hand address and all that, what actually goes inside that envelope, if anybody wants that, shoot me an email and I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you. That's a huge benefit. That's always one thing in our direct mail. We're always changing and looking for, what's working now. Is it a postcard? Is it a letter? What does the letter say? What are you saying in the letter? Are you using your company name? So I love that you found something that's working well, and appreciate you offering that for free to our listeners. So make sure go and follow Jesse's YouTube page at Dominate the Deal on YouTube. And then, as he said, if you'll send him an email, Jesse at Dominate the Deal, he will send you a copy of the letter that they use that you can start using to market to your sellers. So awesome. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it very much. It was good catching up, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Really excited.
All right. Take care.
Have a great one. Bye.
Yep.